Fallout 1 is an open world roleplay game, and also the first of many Fallout games which allow you to choose a wide range of playstyles and paths. This may prompt the question, can you beat the game without taking any damage? That is today's challenge. Firstly, I decided on two ground rules to limit my gameplay. Number one being that I'm not allowed to lose hit points in any form, be that from an enemy or some type of passive damage like radiation or poison. For rule number two, this will also be a pacifist run. My reasoning for adding that being that I feel this challenge would be a bit too easy, considering Fallout 1 is not otherwise a particularly challenging game in my experience. For my Vault Dweller, who I named Ed, I went for the obvious picks of charisma, agility, luck, intelligence, and perception, being the only useful skills as strength and endurance are virtually useless to a defenseless pacifist. For traits, I tagged good-natured for the bonus to non-combat skills and gifted, which is basically always a default choice in this game, giving +1 to every special with only a mild debuff to skills and leveling. I tagged sneak, repair, and speech, although repair proved to be kind of a daft pick, considering it doesn't seem to be used for much in this game.
Ah, you're here. Good. We've got a problem. A big one. The controller chip for our water purification system has given up the ghost.
We listened to the Overseer waffle for a minute about the water chip and how we're all going to die, and then we're sent off on our quest to go find it. Before continuing, I quit the game and used a save editor to modify my character's HP to the lowest I could, which is 1. But it could also be effectively set to 0. The difference didn't seem important, as either way, if I took any points of damage, I'd die instantly, so I just set it to 1 for now. I looted our fellow Ed's skeleton for a knife and a few bullets. They wouldn't be of any use to me, but they'd probably be nice to trade with in case I needed more money. Getting through the beginning cave was no challenge as normal, just being able to sneak past all the rats. On the outside world, I had my first random encounter with 2 rad scorpions, and was just able to run away from them. My first instinct was to stop at Shady Sands since it's so close, but I realized it wasn't really necessary, as most of the important quests in Shady are combat related, and obviously that's not really an option for us. Instead, I started heading south and encountered a wandering merchant who was kind enough to mark Necropolis on my map. Traveling south, I hit another random encounter, a group of raiders. Entering combat, I realized my hit points had risen up to 4, so I quit the game and set my max HP back to 1, and then realized I forgot to save the game, so I was back at the vault. Leaving for a second time, I headed straight to Junktown. This time I got lucky, and I didn't have any random encounters on the way there. At Junktown, getting past the gate, I hit up Doc Morbid's, but they said they were closed and I'd have to come back later for a meal. I went to Killian to sell a few items that I didn't need to shed weight and get a few caps, and then I decided I at least wanted to do the town's quest since I was here already. I then went to go talk to Gizmo, the ugly bastard who runs the town's casino.
Get your butt in here and sit down. We got some business to discuss.
He offered me 1,500 caps to kill Killian. Knowing I wouldn't be able to side with him, I went back to Killian, where I found him in the middle of a fight for his life while I could only sit back and watch. Luckily, him and his guards managed to take down the assassin. Then, I tell Killian that, big surprise, Gizmo wants him dead and hired me to kill him.
Now, if I get proof, the people of Junktown will kick him out.
He asked me to get proof of Gizmo's crimes and gives me a recorder and bug to collect it. As a reward, he offers anything in the store. Nonetheless, I agree and go back to Gizmo, where I fear I might have screwed up, and I can't get him to say anything explicitly incriminating for the tape. But then, I remember I have the bug and decide to plant that on Gizmo instead. Heading back to Killian, I tell him the great news that I got the evidence he wanted, and he offers me 3 different options for a reward, which is not anything I want in the store, as he promised. I decided on going with the leather armor because the doctor's kit obviously wasn't going to be useful to me, as I wasn't allowed to take damage and therefore couldn't receive any limb damage, which is what the doctor's kit is presumably for in this game. And obviously I didn't take the shotgun and shells because that's a weapon which I can't use. This might bring up the question of why I would take the leather armor, as I'm not allowed to take damage in this run, and you would think that armor would reduce damage, but in this game it contributes to a attribute that can allow you to completely avoid damage, which I don't consider to be against the rules of this run. If I get shot at or punched or something like that and the hit lands with no damage. Moving on, Killian asked us if we are willing to help take down Gizmo with him and his guard. I agreed, knowing how this fight usually ends up going, with Killian and his guard being able to kill Gizmo quite easily. We talk to Killian's bodyguard, and then we get teleported over to the fight. Killian and his bodyguard go to work on Gizmo, and I just stand in the corner waiting for the fight to be over. For helping deal with Gizmo, we get enough experience points to level up for the first time. At this point, I put all of the points into speech, since we already tagged it, so I could get it up to 100 just on the first level up. At this point, I decided I may as well start getting the main story over with and headed to the Necropolis, since we can just steal the water chip and solve that quite easily since I already know where it is. Getting into the tunnels, we talk to the ghoul leader and tell him we're definitely not going to just take the water chip and run. Heading upstairs, we pass by Harry and fool him quite easily into letting us pass.
Okay.
Down in the vault, we die a bit trying to get past the first two ghouls, but otherwise it's a cakewalk just sneaking past them. With the water chip in hand, we head back to the vault to tell the Overseer the great news, and he just sends us right back out on another mission. I decided to deal with the Master first, since I thought I'd be able to do that without too much issue at this point. We stop at the hub along the way to sell a few weapons and ammo we don't need, and going to the Boneyard, first we talk to the followers where they tell us that they have a mole at the cathedral and we should talk to her for help in defeating the Master.
Go to the cathedral and find a woman named Laura. Say the phrase Red Rider. We'll create a diversion if we can.
Upon arriving and talking to Laura, she isn't much help and really only gives us access to the staircase area. But since we don't have the robes as a disguise, we can't access Morpheus without just getting mowed down by the Nightkin. So from this point, I did continue on and kept playing for quite a while, but I ended up just getting soft locked and reloading back to the save, so we'll just go from here. I realized that my speech skill not being like 200%, I'd probably need the Brotherhood of Steel's research on the mutants to actually prove to the Master that his plan isn't going to work, but to access the Brotherhood, I'd need to recover the artifact from the glow, and before heading there, I stopped at the hub to buy some Rad-X. Part of the way through getting there, I ran into the same problem that had originally soft-locked me, which is not being able to take Rad-X. But then I realized for some weird reason the game is coded to read you as being dead if your HP is set to 0, and therefore you can't use Rad-X on yourself since you're dead. But if it's set to 1, it's fine. Fixing this in Save Editor, I was able to access the glow finally, and then I ran into another problem. Traps. I thought that I had just wasted even more time, but luckily I was able to figure out that if I just entered combat, I was able to run past the traps like they weren't there. Grabbing the tape, I set back off to the Brotherhood and was able to get in. I contemplated trying to get power armor, but ultimately decided against it, and then went to talk to Vree to get the holotape.
All the mutants I've studied have been sterile. They can't breed with another creature. Here, take this holodisk. It's got copies of my autopsies on mutant corpses.
I went back to the followers at the Boneyard and grabbed the robes we'd need to be able to access the inner sanctums of the cathedral. Went back to the cathedral, stole Morpheus's badge, fiddled with the bookcases trying to get into the vault for a minute, talked my way past the guard, and made sure to grab the Psychic Nullifier from the Crazies, since without it I'd take damage from the Master, which is a no-no. Heading down to the Master after a really long conversation that I mostly skipped over, I was able to convince him of the massive hole in his plan, and he, in reaction, commits explosive seppuku. With only one last little problem to deal with, I hit the road to Mariposa, remembering to stop and save at the Brotherhood first. First try getting in, and I get pasted by the patrol, but I get past on the second try. No patrols spotting me. I talk to Stupid at the front gate, who lets me in since I'm wearing robes, but then I run into a bit of a problem. I remember the force fields scattered in Mariposa will take my hit points if I run through them, and therefore they'll insta-kill me. I spend some time thinking what to do and researching if there's any way to disable them. I end up reading on the wiki that you can blow them up with explosives, but since I didn't have any, I would have to go buy some. So I backtrack all the way to the Boneyard, and I buy all the explosives I can. Then I finally return to Mariposa, hopefully for the last time, ready to finish up. But when I go inside and try it, and I did try quite a bit, it just doesn't work. I kept trying to find if there was a terminal or anything that could disable the fields, but eventually I had to accept that no, you cannot beat Fallout 1 without taking any damage. I'm not saying it's completely impossible, because I feel like I could think of other routes that you might be able to avoid this, and I'm just not certain. But it seems like this is pretty much a game ender. The only way that is clear in my head that you could do this is if you had a high enough damage threshold to avoid taking any damage from the force fields. But I was already this far in the run, and I wasn't going to try to experiment with it, so I'll leave that for somebody else to figure out, I suppose. I decided to finish the run anyway, and I used the save editor to edit my health high enough to be able to get past all of the fields without going through any more of them than I had to. I hacked the computers controlling the base and set them to self-destruct, ran out of the base, and finished the game.
You managed to destroy the vats. Then you killed the master before he could realize his twisted plans.
So that's pretty much the video. Thank you for watching if you got to this point. It's not a very long video, but I think, in my opinion at least, I mean, obviously I hope the video is fun to watch, but the run was pretty boring to do. It wasn't the worst time I've ever played Fallout 1. That was probably the first time I played was the worst time and the best, but it took me about 4 hours to complete the run, and that was with really, I didn't do any side quests at all, besides Junktown, I think, because I just wanted to complete the run because I knew it was going to be annoying to do. I just wanted to see if it was possible mainly, but you know, it was a fun video to make overall. Like I said, hope everyone enjoyed it. Hope somebody enjoys it. I'm planning on doing more challenge videos in the future. Hopefully they'll be a bit more fun than this. I have some ideas in my head already of what to do next, but I have always wanted to do some challenge videos because I've been doing Fallout and like video game challenges generally. I just haven't been recording them. So I thought, why not try it? Because I've wanted to for a while. So I'm glad I'm getting the opportunity to do that. But thank you for watching this, and have a good day.